Experts. This is Matt Kaminsky along with my fellow hyenas here to discuss Russia's accession into the WTO. Will they actually make it as members, and if so, when? What we are going to discuss today is, first of all, the process of joining the World Trade Organization. From there, we will discuss how far along Russia is within this process. We will then describe what issues they've had to overcome throughout their process and what issues they still have left to overcome if they ever want to be members of the World Trade Organization. Finally, we will give our prediction as to whether or not they will ever make it into the WTO, and if so, when. So, if everybody's ready for some fun, let's start off with the process of joining the World Trade Organization. The first part of the process is actually who's allowed to apply. I can kind of equate this to the judicial system within America, whereas anybody that is not old enough to make their own decisions is not allowed to be tried as an adult. The same thing kind of applies here, whereas any country that is allowed to govern itself and make its own decisions in regards to trade is now eligible to be part of the World Trade Organization. Moving forward, the first part is actually to request the accession for themselves. Basically, this is just them stating that they do want to be part of the organization, and then moving on from there. The next step is actually putting in a formal memorandum to the World Trade Organization itself. This memorandum details kind of the legal portions of their current trade situations, things they have in the works, and what subsidies and things along those lines they have in place today. What this does is allows a basis for a working party that is governed by the entire World Trade Organization that will ultimately make decisions on whether or not to bring this party in, and I will get into that a little further here along in the process. Next are what are known as the conditions of entry. These are what the working party takes into effect when they are multilaterally negotiating for this particular applicant into the WTO. What that means is they are actually working with multiple countries at the same time to create negotiations that will allow for specific trade in one country that will potentially trigger different trade acceptances in another country, so on and so forth throughout the entire organization. Following these negotiations, or actually alongside them, are what are known as bilateral negotiations. These are a little bit closer to what we would consider lobbying here. Basically, the country looking for acceptance into the WTO is outside discussing things with the other countries that could potentially stop them from joining the organization. What is not mentioned in the actual steps is the fact that any one of the members of the World Trade Organization has essentially veto power to stop any other country from being accepted. So, the country trying to gain acceptance must of course lobby with these people to make sure they're all in agreement and that they've got everybody backing them to make sure they can in fact gain their acceptance into the World Trade Organization. From there, once they've established all the negotiations from both the working group as well as the bilateral negotiations, a final accession report must be submitted. This is basically two reports, one from the working group from the WTO and one that includes all of the information from the bilateral negotiations. This is then submitted to the heads of the WTO for review. Once they have gone over everything within that package, they take all of the reports, combine them into one, and this is considered the approval accession package. Once this is put into place, this will be handed to the country who is trying to gain acceptance. They will take up to 3 months to review this information and then let the World Trade Organization know that they are planning to accept what has been negotiated. Finally, they have 30 days after they have notified the WTO is when their membership will actually take effect. So, now that they've figured out the process and gone through everything, the question more specifically here is, where is Russia in this process? Russia started this process back in around 1993. They have continued throughout the process and basically been stuck in the negotiation phase for a good portion, or basically all of this former time. They have had negotiations not only with other countries, but within their own country itself. Because of the way the World Trade Organization works, it would definitely allow for more imports into Russia, which has called for actual backlash in their own country. Their current auto manufacturers, as well as airline manufacturers, have been lobbying against membership, because bringing in American cars, for example, would definitely crush the automakers there in Russia and potentially put them out of business. The same goes for the airlines there, as well as numerous other businesses that could potentially be harmed by allowing other countries to import into Russia. Another aspect they've been working through for quite some time is the negotiations with the country of Georgia and Moldova. They have been prohibiting them from importing wine and fruits, claiming that there are actually some sanitary issues with those countries. These prohibitions, if you will, have taken a turn for the worst, whereby Georgia is not willing at this point, or up through this point, to allow Georgia in, and they are essentially the veto that is keeping Russia out of the WTO at the moment. So, as far as where Russia is at currently, they are in the negotiation phase up through about 2006. Giving a more current update, I'm going to now hand it over to Dane for his portion here as to where Russia stands and moving forward. Thank you.